With its buckets of guns, co-op play, and RPG mechanics anchored by outlandish skills, Borderlands brought a new style to action games, and Borderlands 2 upped the ante with more variety and a twisted sense of humor. Now, to bridge the gap between the two tales, Borderlands, the pre-sequel, launches the Vault Hunters to the moon. But it's more of a small step than a giant leap forward.
Surge relays must be supplying power to the reactor. Take them out.
Built on the Borderlands 2 engine, the pre-sequel is mostly familiar, from the allocation of skill points to the loot system to elemental weapons, and much of the art has been repurposed for this lunar landing. Likewise, some of the technical deficiencies haven't gone away. Character models are stiffly animated, and textures are sometimes slow to load or get stuck in a blurry mess until you reset. So while there are new environments to explore, new enemies to blast apart, new skills to unlock, and a crazy new story to follow, the game, at times, feels like more of the same.
Ah, there she is. Looks like he's sleeping. Do you think he's sleeping?
However, the team at 2K Australia has gone out of their way to bring their own accent to the game. Literally, almost everyone on Pandora's moon speaks with an Australian accent. But the key differentiator is actually playing on the moon itself. Your newest piece of gear is an air supply known as an Oz kit, which not only lets your character breathe, but also lets you double jump and slam into the ground. Combined with the low gravity, this increased verticality has a ripple effect on level design and combat. You can now bound to rooftops and boost off jump pads in search of hidden loot. And while it takes some practice, it's satisfying to deal out death from above, tossing grenades at soldiers below or rocketing downward with an augmented slam to annihilate swarming beasties. There's even a new vehicle that can jump wide gaps and splatter enemies as well.
Would you look at that?
While double jumps and slams use up a lot of Oz, running out of air isn't usually an issue since there are frequent vents and oxygen bubbles, and enemies generously drop oxygen canisters. Fire weapons only ignite their victims within atmosphere, but outside of it, getting headshots not only lands you a critical hit, but can also crack soldiers' masks, causing them to slowly suffocate. The biggest problem that actually arises from your newfound floating mobility is that it's not always clear which areas you can explore and which are out of bounds, leaving you to suddenly fall to your death when you wander the wrong way. Weapon types largely follow the same template as Borderlands 2, but lasers are now added to the mix, some firing in bursts, while others blast out a glorious stream of energy, Ghostbuster style. As far as elements go, slag is out, replaced by far more desirable ice weapons. The new cryo guns can freeze an enemy in place and shatter them into tiny pieces. Freezing airborne enemies is especially fun as they drop out of the sky and take a huge amount of damage when they crash to the ground. Unfortunately, the ice effect seems to be a little too awesome for the older consoles, as we regularly see slight lockups in the game when using cryo weapons in the Xbox 360 version. Plus, we had a few instances in which we were trapped moving in slow motion long after an ice effect wore off. Of course, with the new Borderlands comes a new set of playable characters with distinct action skills and varied skill trees that allow for significantly different playstyles. Athena has a shield that can absorb damage and be tossed at enemies. Wilhelm has a pair of drones to deploy, shielding him from damage and assisting in combat, while Nisha the Lawbringer can enter a lock-on mode to maximize damage, and one skill tree even caps off with a detonator to blow up anything that's been grazed by her bullets. The most distinct new character is Claptrap, who's now playable in hilarious fashion. Not only does he not have to worry about breathing oxygen, but his action skill consists of an insane bag of tricks, launching one of many different options each time you use it. He may deploy a mini turret, take up a gruesome melee weapon, go guns blazing with dual guns, or even bounce around on a rubber ducky. Strange, though, that his perspective makes him seem somewhat taller than other Claptraps.
Follow me or you'll get a third ticket!
The story sees these 4 Vault Hunters trying to help Handsome Jack retake Hyperion's Helio Station, which has been overrun by soldiers who plan to use it to destroy the moon itself. A point you're often reminded of as a giant laser periodically fires in the distance. While Jack's goal is to save the moon and its innocent inhabitants, the story is less about him falling from hero to villain — he's always a real jerk — and more about his rise from weakness to strength as you help him build his robot army. The plot doesn't have as much spark, but the humorous dialogue is still entertaining throughout.
Talk about your win-win, that's awesome. Let's move it!
Balancing out when to play the main story and when to embark on side quests can make for a bit of a dilemma. If you wait until later to do these level-based side missions, the rewards aren't as useful, but if you explore and do them all along the way, the resulting XP can make you slightly overpowered when you return to the main event. Limited numbers of fast travel points also mean that you'll spend much of your time trudging back and forth between waypoints and mission givers. That said, most of these extra tasks are interesting and enjoyable. You'll launch a lot of rockets, have some great interactions with returning characters,
'Cause things are gonna frickin' mother explode!
and there's even a basketball hoop to make an epic, low-gravity slam dunk.
Nisha has slammed and jammed the hoop!
In all, Borderlands the pre-sequel does feel more like a massive expansion pack than an entirely fresh experience, but the new playable characters are worth exploring, and the tweaks to the formula have an impact across the entire breadth of the game. You won't know what you ever did without huge double jumps and butt stomps.